Hello YouTube and everywhere else. If you're here on my channel, chances are you know by now that I wrote a book, a novel. I'm in the process of writing the second as it happens. For those who don't know, you really should by now. This is the book I wrote. For those who do know, this is still the book I wrote. This is an actual physical copy. Yes, I really did write this. This is me. The picture here was done by a friend of mine. That was done by different friend of mine. The back was meh. Anyway, I'm actually here today because I have a MacBook now that I've been showing off about a lot. You should probably also know that as well if you're probably familiar with me. But I'm going to do a reading from this. I've already done one excerpt. I'm going to read a second now. In a little bit I'm also going to read a preview excerpt from my second novel, the upcoming one, which is unfinished at the moment. This is, as you can see, it's about 2/3, 3/4 of the way through. But I think it's a pretty good chapter. It sums up a lot of the feel of the novel, the thing as a whole. Anyway, this is chapter 17. Are you going to tell me where we're going? She finally bit out. She was fighting to keep herself from sounding too aggressive, but she wasn't fighting very hard. Her patience was wearing decidedly thin. She'd been driving aimlessly for more than an hour. Now, just circling the northern district and burning up petrol she couldn't afford to replace. The cat gave no answer, gave no indication he had even heard her outburst. He did not, in fact, so much as twitch in response. He was half curled, half stretched out on the passenger side seat. His back legs pulled up somewhere under his belly, with his front paws out dangling just over the edge of the seat itself, the smug, self-indulgent little bastard. Well? She demanded after what she felt to be a suitable pause. Less effort to be civil this time. But there were still some small, lingering shreds. Still nothing. A twitch of his ears, an ever so slight wrinkle of the nose. For all intents and purposes, he was nothing more than a typical, lazy, black and white tomcat. He'd pulled that one on her a few times now, and each time she had almost fallen for him. Almost allowed herself to believe that it had been nothing more than a momentary lapse in sanity, or just a particularly colourful, vivid dream. But each time it worked just that little bit less. And right now, she was pissed at being ignored. Are you going to answer me or not, you ignorant little git? There was a moment more of silence, but then, obliging, the cat did shift his head towards her and looked lazily at her with those hooded, bright green eyes of his. She felt suddenly very foolish, held speared to her seat by his intense and passive gaze. If you are quite finished, he spoke slowly, deliberately. Quite how such an unassuming little house cat could be so scary she could never really be able to say. But there was something, everything about him at that moment. She felt very, very small and weak. I am aware that you are impatient, and you deserve a great many answers. Now is simply not the time for them. I have other considerations, and as soon as I know where we are needed, I will be sure to pass on the message. She swallowed, dry swallowed, and opened her mouth to speak. No words. There was simply no word she could grasp that seemed even remotely like the right thing to say. She closed her mouth again, turned her eyes back to the almost empty road ahead, and waited for him to finish. You must understand that I bear you no ill will, the cat went on at length, his voice distant and now sounding pained. But you are really starting to piss me off. I would appreciate it if you would not distract me. If the movement bothers you so much, then simply pull over and wait. She, again, opened her mouth to speak. The words died on her tongue. Silence once again held dominion. She drove a little further, turning onto Swan Street. There was a shopping complex of some kind a few hundred feet along, on the left-hand side as they currently saw. She could park up there and wait, but that might look a little unusual at this time of night. Instead, she pulled in at the first left and brought the car to a halt down a side street. I suppose I'm just going to have to be patient, she said to no one in particular. Not really expecting a response, but mildly disappointed all the same when none was forthcoming. She sat for a lifetime, of an entire 12 seconds before the silence overpowered her completely. Fine. So the cat couldn't split his attention enough to talk. Hell, he was a talking cat. But he was still a cat. In a regular, yum-yum, lick-lick, tasty Miller house cat could sit and sleep on top of a glaring television. then surely smart Alec the Wonder Mog would be able to do whatever it was he was doing just as easily with the radio on as he could without. Hell, who knows? Maybe you can help him relax. People use low background music to relax. Why couldn't obnoxious talking tomcat? And who knew that all these silly cartoons were right? Cats, when they talk, really are just as arrogant and stuck up as we have always been led to believe. What an earth-shattering revelation, she commented to herself. The cat gave no response. Screw the cat. If the noise was going to be a problem, he could just have to bloody well deal with it. Could he possibly do? Piss in her handbag? She didn't have one. Scratch her hand and hiss at her, maybe? Cats aren't known for being full-trained ninjas, apart from that cartoon she had seen when she was about 8. But those were samurai, not ninja. And they were all good cats. Then again, he could talk, so it wasn't too much of a stretch to consider that he may have some more dramatic abilities hidden away as well. But she didn't care enough right now. The silence was just too damn frustrating. She turned the radio on, and listened for only a single heartbeat before changing her mind and flicking over to the tape deck. Her little breaking Benjamin always seemed to help her relax, so why not stick ask the Wonder Cat too? She chuckled at that one, and made a firm mental note to pass it on to Marcus, if she ever actually saw him again. She settled back into the driver's seat and closed her eyes, oddly finding the southern boredom a welcome change. It was quite peaceful, deceptively so, not over the storm. But it was a welcome respite whilst it lasted. When the calm within the centre of a tornado is all the peace you have, when everything else around you is chaos, you will appreciate the break for what it is. A fleeting moment of comfort to gather your wits about you. Surely just a moment's rest would do no harm. She could listen to the music, let it wash over her, relax her, ease the tension in her muscles. Stick-ass would let her know when he was ready when his task was completed. Whatever it was that his task was supposed to be. Until then, she could revel at the moment of tranquility. She was standing at the peak of a small, sedately sloping hill. Below her, a clump of trees swayed playfully, wistful in the early afternoon breeze. Such a peaceful, tranquil little block of perfection. Mother Nature in her purest form, gently bending this way and that, not a care for anything beyond the gentle rays of the sun smiling down upon her. It was a lie. 20 feet further on, a great gout of flames seared a score of men to ashes, their screams rising in unison for a heartbeat, before each inhalation brought with it a lungful of white-hot liquid fire. They crumpled, fell, and mercifully died in seconds, their bodies blasted and seared into an ugly, unrecognisable charred pulp. An entire squad of expertly trained, highly skilled swordsmen wiped out in the space between moments. But what had they really expected, despite all the tales of noble heroes taking task in hand and ridding the land of the evil menace? The slaying of a dragon was not something to be taken lightly. They were immortal, eternal, and invincible. A single man could not hope to stand against the might of even the sickliest infant, any more than could an entire army. Numbers were irrelevant to such an immense creature. It only served to make the slaughter take a few moments longer. A lesson this particular army was learning in the most definitive way possible. A single man fought with the dragon. No, not even fallen man yet. Though he stood at the man's height. Light, so very light at build. The muscle tone of a child that has only recently broken past the cusp of childhood. The final throes of puberty gone, leaving behind the raw potential of the adult form, but still hovering just at the precipice. That fine, defining moment in life that is both and neither. He could not be any more than 15, if even that, and yet he fought with a skill and intensity that the most seasoned soldier from the imposing force could not hope to match. Equal parts raw talent, expert tutelage, and a complete disregard for his own life. He fought not to win, knowing that the battle was lost before it had even begun. He fought for the dual purpose of helping a friend, and doing as much damage as he possibly could before the weight of the opposition tore him down, crushed him, and viciously trampled him underfoot. Already he had suffered a mortal injury. Blood poured freely from his left flank, only a hair's breadth above his hip bone. Thrust here, a lunge there, and it sprayed out fine jets of arterial blood in sporadic squirts. The fact that he was still conscious, let alone standing or fighting, was firm testament to the boy's determination and loyalty to his noble friend. Long, deep red hair tied back in a cascade of braids, billowing and whipping about him as he ducked, swayed, whirled and lunged. Each sweep of his blade struck home, every other delivered an instant killing blow. He held no shield, wore no armour, a simple tunic and trousers, a peasant's garb for a peasant's son. Yet he fought with more skill and more honour than the noblest of the great cadre of knights they faced. The dragon, his companion, his confidant, his friend. He was clearly of noble bearing, more so even than others of his kind, long, so very long, and lithe as his mortal companion. There was not even the slightest inch of wasted muscle here. Every fibre of this majestic creature was built for strength and more efficiency. A thick, spiked tail that ended in a wide, flat, razor-sharp, bladed tip easily the sign of a modest domicile. A wingspan of a score of men or more to either side, though these were tucked away against his flanks at the moment, curved down towards his tender but still quite impenetrable belly like sheets of finest steel plate. His wide taloned paws, even the smaller two at the front, twice the size of a man, were planted firmly in the muddy ground, his tail and enormous mouth crushing any who came too close, jets of fire from his wide, flared, hooded nostrils baking others at a seemingly impossible range. His scaled and yet smooth, thick silver hide glittered brilliantly in the midday sun, dazzlingly bright. Great swaths of his flanks splashed with sweeping arterial spray, still moist. It was clear this battle had been met only recently, and already the two friends had decimated the opposing forces. Less than a third of the supposedly unbeatable army of righteous retribution still lived. Fewer still were able to stand, and even of that latter number, only a handful retained even the faintest semblance of threat. As she watched, the dragon and the boy moved to advance. A handful of seconds went by. Another platoon, pikemen this time, lay dead and dying. The final broken remnants dithered for a moment. Bravely, stupidly, they considered mounting one final desperate assault, one last glorious push to certain death. But common sense won through. They broke them. The dragon sent one last gout of white-hot flame from his gaping, majestic maw, so fierce that she could feel the heat even from her vantage point so far above. He neither intended nor cared if he hit anyone. It licked to their heels as they ran, spurred their retreat faster, but to the dragon, they were already forgotten. He turned to the boy with him and growled something in that deep, rumbling, painfully beautiful draconic tongue. The boy nodded and collapsed to the ground. The last spark of his life flickering violently as blood continued to pump from the deep, wide wound in his left side. All of this had taken place inside of a minute, the entire battle no more than 4, and she had watched the whole time, standing atop the hill and letting these events unfurl as they would, as they should. But as soon as the army had broken, she began to move. She did not so much run as glide across the ground, covering the distance between them in seconds. The dragon, such a noble creature, so fiercely loyal to this unassuming peasant boy, moved with such speed and agility that it would have shocked any who were unfamiliar with their true nature, and even some who were not. He interjected himself between she and he, curling his massive but infinitely nimble, powerful body around the boy in the blink of an eye. He rumbled again, the ground itself shaking with the power of his voice, but he spoke in the local mortal tongue this time, a language she recognised and knew well. State your intention quickly, witch, or I'll crush you to fine paste. Stay your temper, noble warrior, she soothed, reaching out to stroke behind his nostril. He bristled at the presumption of intimacy, but held himself. I am not your enemy today. You will be, he growled back. No suggestion in his voice, only solid certainty. This I know already. Perhaps, she replied with a shrug, maintaining her proximity. The great silver dragon would be affronted by the arrogance of her, but also respectful of her bravery. This she knew, and on this she had gambled her very life. But not today. Today I come as an ally, and perhaps even a friend. I know who you are, White One. You did not budge, huge, slitted emerald eyes boring into her. Few were those who could hold such a gaze, but hold it she did. I can smell your fear. Only an idiot would show no fear in the presence of such a creature as yourself, she replied, honestly unsure from where the depth of her courage had come this day. And yet here you stand, defiant. The dragon did not move. He did not have to. His frame was immense, the largest she had ever seen, and yet she knew he was still only a child by draconic standards. His full potential would not be revealed until many more years from now. Necessity demands it, she told him, holding his gaze firmly. She could feel her body shaking, but that didn't matter. Showing her fear was not a sign of weakness before such a noble creature. Nay, showing her fear and standing firm before him was perhaps the greatest feat of bravery she could perform. Let her pass, Silver Scale. The boy, his voice so much older than his bearing, quivered from the cold shock as death tugged at his coattails. We will deal with her deception when it comes. The dragon was motionless, not even breathing, but two of his own heartbeats. She heard them thundering in her ears. The commanding tone in the boy's voice was suicide. Nobody, not even other dragons, would dare give an order to even the lowliest of this great bloodline. And yet here was this fragile, dying boy, speaking with such force to the very greatest of them. Astonishingly, the dragon uncoiled himself and stepped back. As you say, he rumbled. He moved aside, but stayed well within reach, adding something in the draconic tongue, a language of which the subtle nuance still eluded her. Speak plainly, the boy told her, on his feet again, shaking from blood loss, shock, and the simple exertion of the fighting, and yet still he stood. She was in no doubt that, if he felt it necessary, he would fight the entire thing over again right now with equal success. It was not so surprising that the dragon, Silver Scale, had listened to him after all. For all the fear the latter had instilled in her, this boy, she knew, was the more dangerous. You should have won this day, she spoke quickly, acutely aware of Silver Scale's distaste for the situation. It was only the kinship he felt towards the boy that had kept him in check thus far. The Great Council had already decreed and painstakingly orchestrated your demise. We know, they replied in unison. And yet here you stand, dying but victorious. She took a slow step towards him. The ramifications of these events will be missed by now. You will be anathema from this day forward, now and always, until and beyond your dying breath. Why did you do it, little quiet? His gaze locked with hers, steely, as fierce as the gleaming dragon, who even now was surreptitiously edging toward her. Because someone had to. She spared a glance at the dragon, sparing half a heartbeat to marvel at how subtle the movements of such a behemoth could be. She read his intention in an instant. If she did not act now, this all would have been for naught. Then I will help you, she held out her hand. I will pass to you whatever small reserves I retain. You will be maimed ever after, but you will continue. And you will not, Silver Scale interjected. This was a statement, but no longer a threat. The tone of a dragon was subtle, infinitely hard to read, but there had been such a tiny shift that she had picked up on. He had realised her intentions and her purpose in this sorry farce. I will return when I am needed. She shrugged slightly, took another step toward the boy, and yes, at that time, I will betray you both. I, too, have already seen this event. I can do no more than offer my assurance that it must be so. Even you two cannot hope to change everything. That remains to be seen, the boy replied weakly. Such fire, such strength even as he breathed his final breath. Life fled from him at that moment, the spark that had burned so weakly giving way to the raging inferno of the realm which came after. He half stepped, half fell towards her. Sheer force of will or blind chance slipping his hand into hers. He grasped it firmly, a death grip, and dragged her to the ground with him. She allowed herself to fall, focused only on that hand's span of physical contact. She poured everything she was into the great chasm, willing it to be filled to overbrimming. Fire tore through her. Pain made her whole body twist and spasm as the heat of the very sun built in the palm of her hand. She writhed violently on the muddy, blood-slicked ground, the brilliant white fabric of her garment turning to an ugly crimson. She was desperate to cry out, to squeeze her eyes closed, to give in to madness. Anything to dull the agony, but she could do nothing. The body acted of its own volition, went rigid. One last spasm and then only blackness. She woke with a shudder, curling over into herself and dry heaving. Impulse, intuition, perhaps just chance, brought her hand to the door handle and she tumbled sideways out of the car. Hitting the gravel awkwardly, she pulled her body into a tight little ball and retched violently, her body shaking, her stomach rolling over and over. The great-granddaddy of all migraines tearing mercilessly through her skull. The attack lasted for about 8 seconds, and she vomited twice more before reason came back to her enough to realise that anything even existed. A comment a friend had made to her once sprang to mind, and she laughed, which caused a new shudder of pain, but distracted her enough to find her reason again. He looked at me as if to ask if clothes had been invented yet. Someone from her time in university. She could not recall who it had been, but she remembered that the friend had been referring to her partner and his condition that morning. It had always stuck with her. Bringing her body back under control, she spat the last blobs of vomit from her suddenly quite dry mouth. She was distantly aware that she had somehow managed to avoid any spraying onto her hair or clothes. She looked around and saw the cat standing on her seat, looking down at her with a stoic expression. Blinked once, tilted his head to the side. Are you going to eat that? A little bit longer than I thought. I do have a tendency to waffle when I write these things, so apologies for that. But tell me what you think. Hit me up in the comments below or on Facebook if you have me there. I'm going to link my my fan page on there as well. I'm almost up to 40 likes now. If anybody wants to help out, I would appreciate it very, very much. Also, one more thing. Between now and publication of my second novel, which is, I'm hoping will be before the end of autumn, anybody, and I mean any individual person who shares the page on Facebook, all you have to do is tell me, show me a picture of it. It doesn't matter if anybody likes it or not because of you sharing it. But if you do so, tell me who you are and I'll put you in a special section in the second novel in the thanks. I will name every single person who does it as my way of saying thanks. So if you want to help me out and get a little bit of an ego boost for yourself in the process, it's it actually, but it's another matter, then hit me up. And until next time, thank you for watching.